Well, hey there, idiots. Welcome back to Observe. In today's video, we're going to be analyzing the nonverbal communication of some people centered around the recent scandal that has been bubbling, resurfacing, so to speak, centered around Colleen Ballinger, aka Miranda Sings. More on that in just a second. Let's go ahead and roll the intro first. Now with summer being in full swing, today's video is brought to us by longtime supporters of the channel, Exter. If you're tired of bulky, outdated wallets that weigh you down and make finding your cards a bit of a hassle, look absolutely no further. Exter is here to transform your everyday carry experience. With its sleek minimalist design, an Exter wallet is more than just an accessory. It's a smart, functional companion that combines style and convenience. But let's also talk about security for just a second. Exter wallets are equipped with RFID protection, keeping your credit card information safe from potential thieves. So you could say goodbye to the worries about having your information electronically pickpocketed from you. Along with this, Exter wallets feature a unique and innovative quick access mechanism. With just the push of a small button, your cards smoothly slide out for easy access, no more fumbling or rummaging around in your cluttered wallet for the correct card. Exter understands the importance of quality as well, which is why their cards are crafted using premium materials such as genuine leather, space-grade aluminum, and even carbon fiber. This ensures durability and longevity. They are built to withstand the rigors of everyday use while maintaining their stylish appeal. Now, perhaps you are like me and often misplace your wallet. Fortunately, Exter has you covered there as well. Using their solar charge tracking card and the Chipolo app, you can easily locate your wallet's last seen location, saving you valuable time and stress. But Exter goes beyond just being a wallet company. They offer a range of accessories such as card holders, phone cases, and even a solar-powered tracker card, which you can place into any item and never lose track of that item. With Exter, you can build a personalized set of essentials that suits your specific lifestyle. So, if you think that Exter would be a pretty good fit for you or perhaps somebody you love and know, consider upgrading your wallet game and experience the perfect blend of style, security, and convenience. Click the link in the description of this video and get 25% off any of Exter's products using my code, which is OBSERVE, OBSERVE. Again, follow the link in the description of this video and use my code OBSERVE to get 25% off. Thanks again to Exter for sponsoring this video, and back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so this is part 2 of this series so far. It is still developing, more things are coming out, more people are coming forward, and as that continues to happen, I will likely continue to address this situation. In today's video, we're looking at a couple different people that had an interaction on some level with Colleen, both a fan and then also an employee as well. So we'll be looking at that and then gathering a little bit more information about what led up to this entire situation that's going on. If you haven't seen part 1, go watch part 1. That will provide the actual story as to what is unfolding. Let's just go ahead and dive into the footage.
Hi, okay, my name is Becky. I'm the girl in this video, and this video has over 1 million views, and that is a lot of people to be seeing this story without hearing it from me, so I want to explain this. So I was a fan of Colleen and all the Ballinger family for a very, very long time, and I think in this video I was about 16.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here. During this, since this isn't an apology, it obviously, the setting, everything like that doesn't have a lot of weight behind it. Looks as if this was just sat down and recorded rather promptly. And that lets us know that this isn't something that has been planned out, thought about for a long time. This wasn't something that was concocted, or the likelihood is that it wasn't, just judging by the set alone. Non-verbally speaking, they're staying fairly articulate, and I'm betting they're holding their phone with their one hand, so only gesturing with the other hand. The nonverbal communication across their face so far is fluid. There hasn't been anything that's a desynchronization point, anything along those lines. And we've seen the footage itself as to the controversial moment. And there are a number of controversial things that Miranda or Colleen used to do on her shows during her sets that are garnishing more and more and more negative attention now. So this is one of the fans speaking about their experience with that. Let's go.
If you've never been to a Miranda show, Colleen frequently has segments where she calls people up on stage. One of those segments was the porn bit, which I'm not really going to be explaining in this video, but that's why I was kind of trying to dress skimpy so that I would be called up on stage and basically get degraded by Miranda. But I did not get called up.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so during this part, what I'm noticing is that there are a number of cuts that are in here. So obviously this isn't just a sit down, spill all kind of video. There are cuts and areas where she can collect. But as we're hearing here that she's calling out this aspect of Colleen's tours, like I just said, of these odd, questionable bits, which wouldn't be questionable bits except for the fact that oftentimes it's involving underage people. And what she didn't mention here is that Colleen also urged younger fans to dress in such a way, like skimpier, like that, so that they could be called up on stage. And then some people were trying to point negative attention at the people who had dressed skimpier to go up on stage, while not recognizing the fact that a celebrity had been the one to kind of request that and the power play that goes into that. Still an area where Miranda or Colleen is taking advantage of younger underage people who might even be a little enamored by the stardom and the idea of being up on stage. It's still a level of manipulation for younger children, still not okay. And we're just going to be able to hear from one of them as they continue through this.
For that, I got called up for the yoga challenge. Now, as soon as I stood up from the audience, I saw Colleen's eyes widen because she realized I was not wearing pants. But for some reason, that didn't stop her from continuing. In fact, no adult at any point stepped in this situation. So we get to the point in the yoga challenge where I am laying down and Colleen is spreading my legs basically as far as she can. She spreads them so far that you can see the spandex I was wearing under my romper, which thank God I was wearing. Now, the original video posted by Xandar, I'm sorry if I pronounced her name wrong, is only a screenshot, but there is a whole video of this. But that screenshot is the most important because that is the moment I will never forget, where I was laying under Colleen and she was smirking down at me while thousands of people were laughing, and I was terrified that my body wasn't covered up enough by the spandex or the romper.
I'm going to go ahead and pause here. So noticing a lot of cuts. That just means that there were plenty of areas that were mistakes or something that needed to be reset, anything like that. So we are hearing a semi-curated version of the events here, but that does also make sense. This isn't an apology. It should be a little bit more curated. Along with that, non-verbally speaking, especially when it comes down to this area around the outfit that she was wearing, she's starting to have some difficulty verbally with that, and a little bit of force is dropping out from behind her words. So there's some extra psychological processing that's going in there. Also, likely a little bit of insecurity centered around this area. And that could be in relation to the possible or probable backlash that she probably faced. But so far, there hasn't been anything that I'm seeing, and even just from the evidence alone, from going back and looking at shows from Miranda myself and seeing these things, there hasn't been anything for this person to try to be deceitful about as of yet. So let's just keep watching.
I basically felt naked, so it felt incredibly sexually violating. I was younger and my body was still developing and I was still becoming comfortable with myself, so for her to use my body as entertainment on stage really set my confidence back quite a lot. And not to mention, after all this, after the show, I had to walk back to my car where there was many men staring at me in a very predatory way that they were not looking at me before because of how exposed I had been on stage. So I literally did not feel safe leaving the venue. And I'm not saying this was sexual assault, although people are debating that in that comment section, but as someone who has been sexually assaulted, this situation gave me that same feeling where it feels like you need to purge and like clean out your insides, you know, just that nasty, gross feeling.
If you're invited up onto a stage by a person that's doing a performance, you are under an immense amount of pressure to go along with, to be able to make sure that that show goes well, to not be embarrassed or embarrass yourself or embarrass them. The list continues. So that power play exists, and people who are good entertainers or good performers or people who are just used to being up on stage know how to take that power that they tentatively hold and not abuse it and not abuse the people that are subjugated to it. That's not what Miranda has done in her shows. Now, still non-verbally speaking, I'm not seeing anything from Becky that's pushing me to believe that she's being deceitful or dishonest. Let's just keep watching this.
There's a couple comments on Xander's video being like, oh, she signed up for that, why is this such a big deal, blah blah blah. Colleen exploited my minor body for entertainment and money and did not protect my safety at this show. As an outsider looking into this situation, it may seem like this wasn't a big deal, but this was really pretty scary for my teenage self, and especially as someone who loved and looked up to Colleen. And I could never say anything because everybody loved her. But this is who she really is. She uses kids for her own gain. I was a minor, and again, she did not protect me. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about taking your kids to a Miranda show, I would advise you to think twice because you may come back with years of trauma, and I don't wish that on anyone.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. That's that first little testimonial from a fan. This is not the only one. There are multiple examples. There's footage of Miranda acting questionably or inappropriately with underage fans on stage. Even just the concept of the bits themselves are questionable. So now we're going to go ahead and switch over to Johnny. He worked with Miranda for a tour, was extremely underpaid, and has some behind the scenes as far as the work conditions provided while interacting with Colleen on the Miranda tour. Let's just go ahead and watch this.
I don't even know how to begin a video like this. Like, where do I even start? It was over a decade of my life.
I'm going to go ahead and pause here and make some things about what I'm just gathering so far. So we're seeing a substantial amount of very prevalent fidgeting with his fingers and hands down here. That's a sign of anxiousness, agitation. That would even make sense in context with the video. He's in a public-ish place. That self-consciousness would show up there. He's also looking around a fair bit, which again makes sense. And even later on in this video, he's like, there's a guy looking at me. So we're going to see some of these nonverbal tells of anxiety around his nonverbal communication that are contextual with the surroundings that he's actually in. So we've got to keep that in mind. Along with that, since he's outside, if there are any levels of breeze or anything like that, that will cause him to have more self-soothing style gestures or agitation gestures, as he might have to fix hair or itch areas because the wind just tickles a little bit. So those are just things to keep in mind. We'll have that in mind on his baseline as we continue forward and look for anything that's straying from that point. Let's continue.
Life that I had dedicated to people who took advantage of the situation, me being young, vulnerable, impressionable. I just don't want to sit back anymore and watch repeat offenders get away with doing this to people. I never really wanted to make this video or ever intended on making a video like this about this situation, but you know, there's always a day for everything.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause here. That's a pretty massive postural change when he's talking about, I never intended on making this video or anything around this or addressing this. Does a very, very large postural change. He also kind of closes back in against himself, pulls his leg up. You could see the full reposturing go around, and it's in a defensive form. He's not presenting larger. He's not being aggressive with this. He's shrinking back in and becoming defensive. So that lets us know that there is a level of insecurity that he might feel in regards to making this video. Perhaps he feels threatened at that. And if he's telling the truth on these areas, then it's kind of flying against some bigger name people. So that does make sense to see in his nonverbal communication so far. So far, this has been synchronized from Johnny. Let's keep watching.
Everything. What Adam has spoken about in terms of what happened with his situation with Colleen, I think what hit me so hard is just realizing how many similarities I've had with her throughout our friendship, work experiences, my employment, like any situation with her. These similarities in the situations are jarring, a bit uncomfortable with how similar a lot of the conversations went down between the victims and her.
All right, so non-verbally speaking, we're still seeing a number of manipulators around his hands as the agitation is coming out, and that way there. We're also hearing a lot of ums, and then I'm hearing the word similar or similarly, the base of similar, being used again and again in regards to Adam's videos and his recollection of Colleen's overall behavior, and to be able to see some fairly synchronized nonverbal communication as he's gesturing about various people. That would push me to believe that he is at least being on some level authentic and sincere here. I don't see anything that would be pushing me away from that. And then being able to also have these other examples outside of his own testimony here, other very provable and observable examples of these patterns. It really just goes to amplify what he's saying already. And the nonverbal communication is backing that up. Let's see how this plays.
It's really gross. I was 15 years old when all of this started happening, and that has been acknowledged. And I think the grossest part is how inadvertently the blame is still somewhat being shifted towards me, because I was, a young, impressionable, naive teen at the time, and I didn't know boundaries and everything. And
during that time, while he's talking about being an impressionable, naive teen, you could see some defensive body language come out here. Anytime that somebody puts their palms up like this, it's usually while stating something that's either controversial or there's been a level of controversy centered around it before, or disagreement. And we're still dealing with this concept of people trying to still shift more weight onto the behavior of a minor and underage person as opposed to a fully developed adult human being who is also in a position of influence and power and has been in that scene for a minute. Had Colleen not been famous, had Colleen not had these opportunities and the power and influence that she had, then there would be the distinct possibility that Johnny would not have done any of the things that he did for them. So that's something that does need to be kept in mind for sure. Let's keep watching though.
Everything. And yes, I was a child, I was a teenager. There were probably some moments that I'd look back on and I'd be like, ooh, yeah,
So with that, he's admitting a level of guilt. Even how he's admitting it, there is a but. It's a but phrase that's about to come in here. Sure, I did ... but so on and so forth. So with that can oftentimes kind of devalue the thing before that as soon as there's a but, because the but is offering an excuse. However, he is still trying to take a level of responsibility now when he's saying that there may have been some things, and then he does this nonverbal cluster with the shrug, a head tilt, and a bit of contempt mixed in with a tight lip compression in there as well. So we're seeing that cluster come out, and that indicates a number of things. Obviously, there's the insecurity centered around in the shrug. There's the tilting of the head, which also leans into that insecurity. And then along with that, what we're seeing is that lip compression and the contempt coming out. Contempt is moral or intellectual superiority in regards to whatever's being spoken about, in this case, his own actions. And the tight-lipped compression in there as well is an indicator of negative emotion behind that. So that entire cluster just lets us know that he has a feeling of insecurity and moral or intellectual superiority in regards to what he did, which if you think about it, that is how often people who are older feel about their younger selves' behavior, is both insecurity in the form of perhaps shame or embarrassment, or even just insecurity in and of itself, and then a level of contempt towards that behavior as you now have a level of intellectual superiority over your prior self. So that makes sense. We're seeing that come out nonverbally in his body language, which is good to be able to see. It's an indication of being synchronized. Let's keep watching this.
But I was just excited over the fact that, me being a kid who had no friends, who got bullied out of school, who was just looking for some form of connection with people, and the fact that I found that with people I idolized and had this community, it was addicting. I didn't want to lose that. I, up until recently, have still been protecting these people because...
Gonna go ahead and pause here and make note of that again. So this is that power play that I had mentioned, that Colleen And the group that Colleen was in had something that was seemingly unobtainable to so many people. So for this person to find that and have access to that, yes, it's an addicting style of thing. It's something that you don't want to give up. Also largely because it can feel like it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So you'll bend your own rules, you'll break your own rules or whatever to try to fit and stay into that position. So that does make sense, especially if you're a young, underage person who is impressionable and who is not certain as to who they are as an individual yet. Considering the power play that is at risk, it's also the responsibility of the people in power to not be abusing their power and their influence. And Miranda should have recognized that. The teen should have recognized that that was happening to an underage person. It's not okay. But here we are on this side of things. Anyways, so let's just keep watching.
People, because I wanted to believe that the connections I had with them, the friendships, the interactions, they were authentic and they were genuine, but they just never were.
Seen a lot of lip compressions in here, micro shakes and some shrugs in there. None of those are pushing me to believe that he's feeling any sort of happy way about what he's talking about, even as he's like, I wanted to believe these things. He would do a micro shake and a lip compression. Those are negative things. Then mixed in with the little shrugs in there and the no shakes, that's just letting me know that he's feeling a level of insecurity and negative emotions in regards to what he's saying here. And as he's verbally saying it, it does make sense in context with what he's saying. So we're seeing what I would consider to be fairly synchronized nonverbal communication coming from Johnny as well. Let's keep watching this.
I worked for Colleen on the Miranda Sings bus tour 2018, and that was something that I thought was going to be life-changing for me, and it was in all the ways I didn't expect. I was bullied, tormented on a daily, eventually got my room access revoked. We had hotel rooms that we would drive on the bus to a location overnight, and then we get there super late. And one night we had gotten to our location in New Jersey, and I had
Non-verbally speaking, synchronized. What I do want to be able to make note of, though, is while he's talking about some of these more pointed things, specifically centered around it was life-changing, but not in the way that he expected. He does a forced little fake laugh. And then along with that, right shortly thereafter, when talking about being bullied, he does another one of those forced little fake laughs. And those are not genuine, happy, joyful laughter. You can see it doesn't fully reach his eyes. It doesn't have the force behind it. That is a genuine laugh of happiness. And so that would be considered a nervous or uncomfortable laugh. And that would be in regards to what he's talking about, and talking about being bullied and talking about the things that he is here can make a person feel very self-conscious and very uncomfortable, perhaps nervous. So then that laugh would creep out there. That does make sense in context with what he's doing here. And so let's just continue seeing how this narrative plays out.
And I had asked Corey if he wanted the room and if he didn't mind sharing, because we were kind of like room buddies. And he, in his Corey way, kind of mumbled and didn't say much. And I was like, okay, I'm tired, gonna go to bed. So I didn't realize I had grabbed both room keys. And so I texted him when I got up to the room, and I was like, oh, hey, dude, I have both keys. If you want to sleep up here, like, let me know.
Okay, so in this part, again, he's showing synchronized nonverbal communication, even down to the gestures that he's doing with his hands are emphasizing what he's talking about verbally, and they're doing so in a synchronized way. I'm seeing these nonverbal tells, the gestures, the movements, all kind of line up with how his verbal flow is going as well, and that's a good indicator for authenticity. Let's keep watching.
And he was like, I'm just gonna sleep on the bus tonight. I want to wake up to go to the gym tomorrow, so just make sure you're up so I can get the key from you. And I was like, okay, great. I went to bed and woke up the next morning bright and early. He strung me along for about an hour, and then he finally texted me that he was coming up to the room to get the key. And I opened the door and greeted him, said good morning, asked him how he was. I sat back on the bed because I thought we were just gonna kiki and have like a little morning chat. No, nothing of the sort. I was screamed at immediately because...
Okay. Number of things non-verbally with this. Again, we're hearing one of those fake laughs, forced laughs, nervous laughs, so to speak, in there again. And it's in regards, again, to what would be considered a very emotionally charged moment. And then along with that, when he's talking about being screamed at, he does an interesting little nonverbal cluster with that, with the hunching down, raising up at the shoulders. It's really protecting this vulnerable area of the neck, so that's a very defensive nonverbal communication with that. He also flashes a partial fear expression where the corners of his mouth are drawn off to the side, and there's a lot of tension around here in the jaw. So we're seeing that come in, and that makes sense with what he then verbally says, saying that he was being yelled at. So that all is synchronized again as well. Let's see how this plays.
Because I stole the room and I didn't ask for it, and how dare I? He's worked for his title. He's licked the floor clean where Colleen has walked to get his title. Blah, 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 blah. I was horrified to the point where I had a full-blown panic attack and sobbed and called my mom on the phone and told her that I was coming home. Ooh, this wind. Thankfully,
Gonna go ahead and pause there again to just make note of some of the dynamics of stuff. Again, here we're hearing another example of the workflow that is admired or perhaps venerated in Colleen's workforce, is this idea of people bending over backwards for Colleen, as given example by this person who obviously doesn't sound like a very nice person either, from what I'm hearing from Johnny here. That the mindset is still very worshipful almost of the people that are in the higher ups, and people that are starting into the work crew or workforce perhaps are not treated as well. And that's also just another unfortunate thing, not uncommon by any stretch of the imagination, especially if there's an influencer who's very full of themselves or confident in themselves and treats everybody else that are working for them or around them as less than. And that apparently isn't something that's unfamiliar on the Miranda Sings tours. So that's discouraging to be able to just hear more context of and more evidence of. And then we're having another one of these forced fake laughs in there as well, centered around calling his mom. This disconnected laughter is in regards to nervousness and agitation as well. So let's just keep watching this real quick.
I did not. And I say thankfully because, yes, the experience unfortunately just got worse, and there are so many stories that unfold, but that's when things started to get really bad, was that instance. It took away my room rights. I wasn't able to shower in hotel rooms. I had to wait till we got to the venues, until family members like Colleen's parents and Rachel came on tour. They were my safety net. They allowed me to use their showers, hang out in their rooms on days off, because I was completely blacklisted. I was just gaslit left and right. I would constantly be told that I was right and that, I get counseled through these situations. I'm so proud of you for sticking up for yourself, all this fabricated nonsense. It was just love bombing, feeding my ego to make me believe that I was valued and appreciated, respected. But those were all just words. The actions proved otherwise. I was constantly told, I'm proud of you. I actually, I know you're telling the truth, but I'm going to enable this person in my life to continue treating you this way. That is constantly what I was told. And seeing people like Adam and Cody come out with their stories, the same tactics and manipulation. It's repeated offenses, it's tactical, it's evil, manipulative. I can't stay silent anymore. I can't do it. There's so much more into this. It goes so deep. I'm not even sure if I'm gonna post this, but hey, this is my story, or just a little tiny sliver of it. But we can't be so outraged over these people, these influencers, celebrities getting away with this stuff if we're complacent and we allow it to happen. And just as hurt as I was by Colleen being complacent and watching her friend abuse me, I can't watch these other people who have suffered throughout the same situations I did and not say anything, because that shows complacency and that gets us nowhere. We have to stick together, and it's really disgusting and sad that multiple people had to go through such similar traumatic experiences, but that's why I think it's really important that people like Adam and Cody are sharing their experiences, because, you know, no change is going to be made unless people start taking accountability and, you know, things start getting out there. If there's one...
I'm going to go ahead and pause here. Obviously, we listened to a large portion of it there. Throughout that, I was trying to pay careful attention to any of the nonverbal avenues. I did not see any areas that would be considered desynchronized, even down to the part where he's talking about the family being a safety net. He leans back and he does a very broad, wide open gesture cluster here. And that doesn't lead me to believe on any level that he's being defensive or deceitful in those areas. He was synchronized throughout, again, as he's gesturing, talking. They're all going and flowing at the same time, which is good to be able to see. And again, an indicator towards authenticity. It's not a guarantee that he's being truthful, but it is definitely pushing people towards that direction rather than being deceitful. We've only got about 45 seconds left of this video, and then we'll talk about it at the end.
One piece of advice that I could give anybody who might potentially stumble upon this video, it is so easy to get wrapped up in the world of celebrities and influencers and people who hold so much value in our society, but just give that love to yourself. Give that love to your friends and your family. Show up for them like you do these people who have these huge followings, who don't know you, who don't care about you. All right, well, I'm gonna go. If y'all wanna hear any more of this, let me know, because I got stories, y'all. I got stories. But yeah, I'm Johnny. I'm signing off. Thanks for watching.
Okay. And that's where we're going to go ahead and wrap up that side of this whole segment of the analysis itself. Again, that very last phrasing from Johnny is beautiful, and I wholeheartedly agree. Instead of worshiping and praising and dedicating so much time, energy, and love to these influencers, which is fine. It's fine to be able to appreciate a person for what they do. It's encouraging for the person doing the thing for sure. But instead of putting so much of yourself into trying to raise another person up, it's just far better for you to put that energy towards yourself or towards the people that do genuinely care about you. And I mentioned this in the last video, that no matter how kind-hearted or loving or caring the influencer is in front of the camera, they cannot physically, emotionally ever be friends with everybody that's watching them. Not that possibility. So all of these influencers that are like, oh, all of my fans are my friends or things like that is manipulation. And they might even want it to be true, but it's just simply not. And that's just because everybody's limited, and that's just how life works. So both of them were being quite synchronized. I can see in both camps where people were like, oh, but there were certain actions that each party had to take in order to get to the positions that they were in. It's very true, and I think for justice's sake, that should be considered. But then also along with that, I feel like the power plays that I mentioned before should be considered. I feel like the influence should be considered. I feel like the age difference especially should be considered. And then any of the social pressures that come into this entire scene as well also need to be heavily considered. And once that's done, it really becomes quite clear who is taking advantage of who and where the abuse of power is genuinely lying. If there's anything else, if there are other clips that you would like me to take a look at, especially as this develops, let me know in the comments of this video. If you do have any other things that are extraneous to this, I am going to continue making videos. So if you do have any requests like that, just let me know in the comments below. I do have a link tree. If you want to go to any of the socials, reach out to me there, you can. But without further ado, that's all that I've got for today. My name is Logan, and you have been oh so awesome as you always are, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.